Bon Iver are back again with a brand new record, I. This is their second full-length studio album, following up their debut project, 22 A Million. Now, this is a project led by frontman James Blake. They're signed to Warp Records, and they've been like a leading figure in the garage rock scene since the 1980s. I love me some Bon Iver. Alright, enough bollocks. I like this album. I definitely would not call myself the biggest Bon Iver fan in the world. I have sort of a mixed history with the band. I am a very big fan, though, of the incredibly intimate and fragile, masterful piece of indie folk that is their debut record, Forever Ago. That whole thing was just written and recorded by Justin himself, just him alone, no band backing him up on this one. It was recorded and written, I think just written actually, in a faraway, reclusive cabin that he just retreated to after a pretty bad breakup, and the kind of personal trauma that instantly comes with painting that kind of image in your head was really beautifully displayed through the writing and music on that record, and it really moved me quite a lot. However, the follow-up to that album, the self-titled in 2011, had some stunning tracks on it, namely these ones, but the shaky mixing and constant obsession with being really maximalist and not really having the same subdued approach that the debut had kind of stopped it from having that same lasting impression on me. And then 5 years after that record, there was 2016's 22 A Million, which I respect and admire for being as one of a kind as it is, but I fucking hate that album. This was the record where they introduced vocal effects and electronic production. It just came off so damn tacky to me. The whole album is just littered with cheap experimentation to mask the fact that this thing cannot stick to one good idea for the fucking life of it. But that is in the past. We are now in 2019 and they got a brand new album, their fourth album, and I think this might be my favorite one, yo! This is the most musically fleshed out I think the band has ever sounded, which is such a breath of fresh air to hear after the fucking mess that was the last one. This thing just sounds so damn lavish and full. There are so many huge sweeping moments with these giant opulent string sections, these triumphant horn sections, these incredibly expressive vocal performances, some of the most emotive from Justin and his whole career, honestly. It makes for some genuinely stunningly gorgeous tracks in the case of songs like Shadiah, Faith, or the opening track, I, which is peppered with these cloudy, overwhelming blasts of like vocoded noise. And I love the little plucked guitar moments and the way they kind of play off of the various different voices that appear on this track. It all blends together so damn comfortably. It sounds nowhere near as gimmicky and frustrating as it did on their last one, in my opinion. Here it sounds so much more satisfying. This thing is kind of taking the sort of glitchy electronic elements of their previous record and blending it with their indie folk roots to make a sound, a nice middle ground, a nice style that feels comfortable, exciting, and refreshing for the band. And in my opinion, Justin's performance on all of these tracks at no point ever undersells the scale of what you're hearing. Like on the track Naeem, where his voice gets particularly more gruff and furious as he just belts out this chorus, I can hear crying. Or the unstable, jittery little synth line that just kind of lurks throughout the track Gel More. All the music on this thing is every bit as emotive and expressive as Justin is as well. But that does lead me to my one biggest disconnect with this album, and that would be with the lyrics on this thing, the writing. I failed to really derive much genuine sort of impact from them like I did on previous Bon Iver records, namely Forever Ago. And I could just be being stupid here. I'm not the biggest, most invested Bon Iver listener out there. Maybe some of you guys kind of picked apart what he was saying a bit better than I did, but a lot of the times it felt like he was just kind of beating around the bush in regards to what the thing is he's singing about. The track Gel More sort of struck me as an environmental anthem about how we as people are sort of killing the earth in a sense. There's a very apocalyptic tone to the things he says on this track. Then there was the song We, which I caught themes of greed in those opening few lines, like, look at where you are, you're adjacent to the sky, I guess painting sort of a picture of someone who takes and takes and takes but never actually gives back. But I've seen people say that track is all about the Native Americans. I've seen people say the track You Man Like is about fucking toxic masculinity, and I personally just did not come to that conclusion whatsoever, so maybe I'm just being stupid, but a lot of the time I don't really feel like like I'm able to establish much of a bond between Justin on this album in the same way I was with his previous stuff. So it does create a bit of a faint barrier for me to really connect with a lot of this album. Maybe a repeated listens will open up to me a little bit more, but for me, the enjoyment of this thing truly just comes in just how wonderful it sounds. Even some of the more subdued and low-key cuts like The Closer or Holy Fields just have this kind of fragile uncertainty to them that just nicely bridges the gap between some of the more huge moments on the album, like Hey Ma, for example. Which that song I think is all about kind of remembering where you came from in a sense, or just kind of knowing you can fall back on those that helped you from the beginning, just in case you ever feel like you're losing grasp of who you really are or something. The hook on that track though is one of the most fucking gorgeous things I've heard all year. I love that little high-pitched voice thing that pops in at the very beginning of the hook is dank as fuck. And the delicate synth pads that get accompanied by these really just anthemic horn sections on the track Shadaya is genuinely like fucking angelic. There are so many like orgasmic moments on this album, bro. I think it's the most well-realized and fulfilling record they have just on a musical level, and I applaud them for that. Honestly, some of these tracks had me legitimately just like in absolute awe of what has been accomplished on this thing. And I gotta hats off to them, but you guys made some good shit. I just wish I was able to comfortably say I felt like I was being brought along with Justin on this journey, but the writing is just too awkwardly esoteric and vague for me to really derive much out of it. I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect there. But I was still definitely able to find a pretty significant amount of beauty in the assembly of basically every track here. So I'm gonna go with an 8. I think it's one of the best records this year. I think it's possibly their best album. I guess it depends on the mood I'm in, you know, because I could definitely see Forever Ago hitting a bit harder if I'm in a specific headspace. But yeah, I will say regardless, this is an album I really do love, and I would absolutely love to hear what you guys think about this one. Please tell me in the comments what you think. I'd be very curious. Those are my thoughts on this new Bon Iver record. Please go check it out. Let me know what you think and all that. And yeah, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next review.